This is a Honda Civic AMG.
What?
Yes, you heard that right. AMG, a company best known for making Mercedes cars go fast, also worked its magic with this Japanese Econo box. I know, right? And that's not the only time they did something like that.
What the hell is even that?
Hey guys, Stipe here with a list of AMG flavored cars that are not Mercedes. Let's do this thing. Lotus Emira. Yes, we'll get to the Civic, but first, Lotus. It's been over 25 years since they stopped making their own engines and started borrowing from others. First, Rover, then Toyota, and as of recently, a 2-liter AMG too, found in the base spec Emira. Now, I know I'm supposed to be talking about the AMG part here, but can we first take a moment to salivate over how beautiful this car is? Classic proportions, simple surfaces, round curves with sharp edges. Ooh, it's perfection.
Perfection.
Even the cheapest Emira looks like a $200,000 supercar, so it's almost a shame that the engine is just 4 cylinders. But remember, this is that lunatic 4-cylinder also found in the A45 Uber hatch, where it puts out 420 horses. Holy shit! Nice, right?
Wrong.
The problem is, the more expensive V6 version makes just 400 horses, meaning that the base 4-cylinder had to be detuned to 360 for hierarchy's sake. Also, the manual shifter is reserved for the V6 only. The AMG comes exclusively with the 8-speed dual-clutch auto, but you know what?
I'll allow it.
Emira is a grown-up Lotus. It's an everyday sports car, and for everyday use. The auto is just plain better. Plus, the AMG car has more torque, is slightly lighter, has better weight distribution, so it handles better, and besides, you can unlock its full C63 470 horses tuned with a software change only. I don't know, man. The base spec sure seems like a better car to me. Chrysler Crossfire SRT6.
First, a joke. What do you get when you cross an
Chrysler
with a
Mercedes-Benz?
my ass?
When Mercedes and Chrysler joined hands to form a new company back in 1998, it was described as a marriage made in heaven and, quote, a merger of equals. The idea was to support each other, share tech, and generally not to do any backstabbing. And then Mercedes did just that. Ow! Take the Chrysler Crossfire, for example. Underneath its body, the car is like 99.999% the same as the Mercedes SLK. It was even built in Germany, so fair deal, right?
Wrong.
Fair would be giving Chrysler the new SLK platform to work with, not the old one. How is it a merger of equals when the two cars that went into production at the same time were still a whole generation apart? It had been 4 years since the hands shook, so don't tell me that the existence of this new SLK platform caught Chrysler by surprise.
What's this? It's just a theory.
And don't even get me started on the SRT6 version. That's a Crossfire with a supercharged V6 from the SLK AMG. And if you think, oh cool, there's at least that, think again. In the Crossfire, that engine makes 335 horses, which isn't bad, but in Mercedes, it goes up to 355. And again, we're talking about the car that's not even in production anymore. And if you compare it to the new SLK, it's clear that Chrysler was not just backstabbed, but backstabbed with your mother's toy. Marriage made in heaven, my ass.
Enough!
Every Pagani, since ever, is powered by an AMG V12. We all know that, but why AMG? Why not BMW or Ferrari or their own? He is why. Juan Manuel Fangio, a 5-time F1 champion who drove for Mercedes, was also a very close friend of Horacio Pagani. So Pagani was like, hey, could you maybe pull some strings and get me some of those Mercedes V12s that they have?
I will do anything you want me to do. My nigga.
And so, when the first Zonda rolled off the Pagani production floor, it had, you guessed it, a 6-liter V12 from Mercedes S600, tuned by AMG to 450 horses. It was flamboyant, visceral, angry, but 450? That doesn't sound like much, even for 1999. Oh yeah? How about this 7-liter V12 making 550? No? 7.3 liters onto F with 600, 640, 680, 760, 800? Had enough?
Okay. You win.
Then came the Huayra with its flip-flaps on the nose and something else under the hood. Twin turbos. That meant that the power was never an issue. But what about the noise? Horatio, instead of trying to mask it, embraced it and went a little crazy with it. Take a listen to this POV driving by Marcatino. And now we have the Utopia making 860 horses. The EV girls will flock to Nevera and call this Pagani weak, but consider this, all Utopias are already sold out, while to this day, Mats managed to sell only a third of the Nevera's planned production. Must be something about that AMG V12 that's solely missing from a 2,000 horsepower EV. I wonder what it is. Estera Imperator. Imperator. In the 1970s, there was this German dude called Eberhard Schultz, who worked as a design engineer for Porsche.
Best job ever, right?
But I guess he would have rather worked for Mercedes instead. Why do I say that? Because in his spare time, he was also building this, the CW 311 concept car. While it had some Porsche parts, the V12 engine was from Mercedes, taillights too. The whole design looked like a weird wedged version of the C111, and the doors were SLR gull-wing style. Oh, and it had a Mercedes badge on it too. It was a fully functional mid-engine supercar, and when Mr. Schultz presented it to Mercedes, they went like, impressive, very nice.
Very nice.
But we're not interested.
Fine, I'll produce it myself.
Now called the Estera Imperator, it was pretty much the same as the concept. Mercedes was even nice enough to supply it with the needed parts. Only 30 were ever made, and no, none of them were lookers. The earlier ones were fine, but then they ruined it by adding this goofy top-mounted periscope. Definitely not what you'd call a Sidney Crawford beauty mark there. The later ones had normal side mirrors, but the body just grew fat. Also, the later ones had AMG V8s, which is why they're on the list, while the earlier ones had the weaker regular engines. Plus, notice that some of them still had 3-pointed stars on them too? Mercedes was explicitly against that, but I guess they felt bad for rejecting the dude, so they just kind of let it slide.
Nah, you're not a bad guy.
Mitsubishi Galant AMG. Despite starting as an independent tuning house for a long time, AMG's business relationship was entirely monogamous. Mercedes was in the neighborhood, so they only worked on their cars. That changed when suddenly Mitsubishi, of all people, phoned in and asked if they could do something for them too.
Sure.
And so the first Mitsi to receive an AMG makeover was the awesomely named Debonair Royale. However, the makeover was visual only, a bunch of badges, the low-poly body kit, and that's about it. Then came the Galant, and this time around, the oily parts were changed too. Better suspension, throatier exhaust, plus all the stuff that got crammed into its 4G63 2-liter engine. New pistons, camshafts, titanium valve springs.
Not interested.
The result? 8,000 RPM redline and the 170 naturally aspirated horses. Not much by today's standards, but back then if you wanted more, you had to give it a turbo, which is exactly what Mitsubishi did with the VR4 version. That plus they gave it the all-wheel drive. This meant that for once the AMG version was not the top dog, which really knackered its popularity. Only 500 were sold and the owners didn't exactly treat them like the odd rare gems that they were. Today, though, those tables have turned, and the AMG Galant is much more sought after than the VR4. Like, doubly more. I mean, which one would you rather have? New Aston Martins. Aston Martin is a small boutique manufacturer, a forever struggling small boutique manufacturer. So when the EU ordered them to develop cleaner engines or pay a hefty fine, well, they didn't exactly have the money to do either. But they did have an idea. If we stick our logo on the 1.3-liter Toyota IQ, we'll tell them the average CO2 across all our cars has fallen to acceptable levels.
Now, fuck off.
Oh shit.
However, to make that CO2 number a reality, Aston needed to sell 4,000 of these per year, and well, they didn't. The Signet was selling worse than condoms at a Star Trek convention, so really, there was only one thing to do: ask AMG for help. Their V8s were raucous enough, environmentally acceptable, plus Mercedes already had a 10% stake in Aston anyway. If they wanted their investment to grow, why wouldn't they help out? So they did. Starting from 2017, the DB11 and now 12, the DBX SUV, the Vantage, they were all fitted with hand-built AMG V8s. I guess that worked well, so Mercedes doubled their stake in the company and even appointed a former CEO of AMG to be the CEO of Aston. This brought some more benefits. Aston engines were now a bit more special than what was put in your regular Mercs. Take the Vantage, for example. It went from 510 to 665 horses, which is a lot. The DBX is even more insane, 707. And then there's the upcoming Valhalla supercar, which makes more horsepower than any Mercedes ever made, 828. Nice, but Aston, make some profits already. I mean, geez. Now, before I tell you about the Civic, here's one more AMG car that isn't a Mercedes. Can you guess it? I'll give you a hint. It's from Morocco. Anyway, Honda Civic AMG. A few things to point out. In some markets, including South Africa, the high-end Civic is called Ballade. So officially, this is the Honda Ballade AMG, but let's just agree to call it Civic. Secondly, it's an incredibly rare car with photos and footage of it being almost non-existent, so forgive me if the editing quality drops during this section. Cool? Cool. Anyways, the AMG Civic? How did it come to that? And how come nobody's ever heard about it? Well, it happened the same way that the AMG Galant did. Honda wanted a performance car for the bustling South African market, and AMG was open for business. The conversion was in two stages. You could either have just the cosmetics or the cosmetics and better tires, better suspension, better exhaust, and the dyno-tuned engine. The exact details and power figures are kind of sketchy, but there's a reason for that too. Neither Honda or AMG will admit that they ever worked on these cars, despite both fourth and fifth generation of them actually existing. AMG has a whole page dedicated to all the non-Merc cars they worked on, but no mention of the Civic. And Honda? Well, they now have the Type R and are channeling their inner Biden if you ask them about this.
Sir, what about the AMG Civic sold exclusively in South Africa?
Look, if we finally beat
Bugatti.
Well, let's hope that this video spreads the word and more info surfaces about the unloved child that is this car. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. Go watch something else now, and I'll see you in the next one.
Stipe out. Cut!
Yeah.